So alright guys, this video here is by Mr. Nightmare. Like I said, requested by Ray Burst, 6 of my favorite scary true stories through the years. We're gonna go ahead and check this out, guys. Are you ready? Alright, let me turn off the background music. Here we go. Gotta love Mr. Nightmare. Here we go.
Car to buy from.
Story 1.
I was looking for a car to buy for my son for his 18th birthday. I was searching all the typical car websites, cars.com, eBay Motors. They were all overpriced as expected. Craigslist was the only place to find an actual deal.
Gosh, good luck trying to find a vehicle nowadays for a decent price. You got a car with like 100,000 miles and people still want like $20,000, $30,000 for it. It's ridiculous.
About a week into my search, I found an 03 Toyota Camry. It had 67,000 miles, no accidents, no damage, and good condition for only $3,500. This seemed like a steal for such a reliable car with such low mileage. The seller lived about 10 miles from me, which was a reasonable drive when looking for a car. I gave him a call.
What do they say, guys? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
To set up a time to come check it out. The man sounded normal on the phone. He assured me there were absolutely no problems with the car. He introduced himself as Bob. I brought along $3,500 in cash, even though I planned on wiggling down the price as much as possible. I pulled up the dirt road to Bob's property.
I could tell you what's going to happen right now. This is a setup, especially on Craigslist. Last night or the night before, I think I reacted to some Craigslist horror stories. I can't remember if it was last night or the night before. $3,500, that's too good to be true for this vehicle. But hey, over $3,000, if you can just take it from someone and rob them, that's quite a bit of money. This is a setup right here, I can tell you right now. It's just a setup. They're going to try to rob them, take the $3,500 and hit the road. I bet there's no car. There's no vehicle for sale, I bet.
15 minutes early. It was a tiny little house with a decent-sized property, only because it was a bit far from the nearest neighbors. The garage was open, so I looked over to see if anyone was inside, but except for an unusual amount of car parts, it was empty. The car was nowhere in sight.
Boy?
The only car on the property was an old pickup truck. I went over to the front door to check the house numbers. It was the right address. The doorbell button was missing.
What I say, guys, there's literally no car on the property, or at least that car that was listed for sale.
So I knocked on the front door. I knocked every once in a while for exactly 5 minutes before deciding to give the man a call. So I dialed his number, and I heard the sound of his phone ringing from inside the house.
What?
I was extremely confused at this point. Now I knew I had the right house. I didn't understand why, if he was home, why he wasn't answering. I decided I had to take a peek through one of the windows to see if anyone was inside.
Oh no.
Peering through the glass, I couldn't really see much as it was pretty dark inside the house. I saw a very old-fashioned dining room set, but across from that, I saw somebody standing at the back door of the house, staring outside.
Hey, Nadine.
I figured that must have been
what?
Bob, so I knocked on the window.
Is it like an abandoned house?
There was no gate or anything to the backyard. It was just a wide open yard since this wasn't a rural area.
Yo.
I simply walked around the house to the backyard. I didn't understand how he couldn't hear me. When I got to the back door, I made a shocking realization. The figure standing by the door was a taxidermied human being.
What? No.
I ran straight back the way I came and back to my car. I looked up one last time before driving off. The blinds to the window I had peeked into had been shut, but I could see 2 of the blinds creased open. Somebody was at that window, watching me.
A taxidermied human? What?
The whole situation still makes no sense.
What in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre's going on here?
All the car parts, the fact that there was no Toyota Camry, the taxidermied human being. Given that there was no car there, leads me to believe that whoever that man was wasn't planning on selling me anything. And that also leads me to the disturbing thought that I was very close to becoming a lifeless statue staring out that man's back door.
Did you report that guy to... Okay. Like I said, guys, I love Mr. Nightmare, but sometimes the stories just end and it's like, what the hell happened after? Did you report that Craigslist post and that the address you went to? Did you go to the police and report that? There was a taxidermy looking human thing there, and I sure hope you went to the police. The story just ends. Oh, I got out of there. Like, I really hope you called the police or something.
This happened when I was really little and often left alone with my single mom. She always came to check on me every night when she would get up to go to the bathroom. This one night in particular, I remember waking up thinking I heard something in my closet. I looked up and my mom was at the foot of my bed giving me a playful wave.
Oh, whoa,
she told me
God.
To go back to sleep. She then went into my closet and pulled the door until it was just barely
Nah.
open, and she just stood in there.
I don't think that's the mom. I don't think that's the mom. Ugh.
Poking her head through the crack of the barely open closet. I remember vividly seeing her eye peeking through the crack at me. I laughed like any little kid would do in that situation, and then fell asleep moments later. When I was eating cereal the next morning, I asked my mom why she was hiding in my closet last night, and she just stopped and gave me a puzzled and concerned look. She told me she hadn't been in the room all night. At first she assumed somebody had broken into the house, but she soon realized it was some kind of hallucination or dream. Since this experience, I've only had 2 other hallucinations, neither of them as vivid or as creepy as this one.
Yo.
In the year 2009, I was spending a weekend with my uncle on his ranch when my parents were renovating the new house we had just bought. It was my second night there, a Saturday, and it happened to be during one of the biggest thunderstorms of the year. I'd say there were at least 3 crashes of thunder and lightning per minute. And we were in the heart of the storm because the thunder would crash not even a second after the lightning would. I always enjoyed listening to storms while laying in bed. So I stayed up a little later watching TV, just enjoying the ambiance. After the movie I was watching finally ended, I turned off the TV and tried to fall asleep. As I heard the lightning strike from outside, I could have sworn I heard some kind of metallic thud coming from outside at the same time. I didn't pay it too much mind. 20 seconds later, I could have sworn I heard
What the hell is that noise outside?
it again. A very distinct metallic thud coming from outside to match the timing of the lightning. I really don't mean to make this sound like a cliche horror story, but my uncle really is a kind of creepy guy, and I was never close with him even remotely. So for that reason, I didn't feel right going to wake him up. I just tried to forget about it. Now I was getting concerned. What the hell could that be? After the third time,
I bet it's someone trying to break into the house, guys. And every time it thunder or every time it lightnings and then there's thunder after, the thunder's really loud. So the person has a hammer or something and I bet you they're like hitting a lock. Maybe they're hitting a lock or hitting the door, trying to break open the door. I bet someone's using the loudness of the thunder to cover up them like trying to break into the house. It's just a theory, or I don't know. That's just an idea I have.
I finally got out of bed and walked over to the window of the guest bedroom. The water pouring down on the window made it extra hard to see what was out there in the dark fields. A flash of lightning momentarily lit up the property, but I couldn't see anything. However, once again, the sound of a metal hit accompanied it. The sound was so close now, it sounded like it was coming from the left of the window at a blind spot. I was going to do something I knew my uncle wouldn't be happy about. It would be a bit messy, but I was going to open the window and peer outside to see if I could see what the sound was.
Yeah, open the window. That's smart. Oh, gosh.
I unhooked the window lock and slid it up, and immediately the wind of the storm blew drops of rain into the room and onto me. I stuck my
Frickin' light keeps messing up again. My light did this the other night. As you guys see, the light right now is red. Keeps randomly like turning different colors. I think there's something wrong with the ring light I have here. If it keeps doing it, I'll turn on a different light. Actually, I'm going to do that quick because that's getting annoying. I'm going to have to get a different light and figure out why that keeps flickering all weird like that.
My head out the window and looked to the left. And at that very moment, lightning lit up the property once again, and I could see a person dressed in all black crouched down by the outside basement door with his hand raised in the air. And before the sky went dark, I caught the briefest glimpse of what the sound was coming from. The person was bashing at the basement door lock. I pulled my head in and quietly shut the window, making sure to lock it. I was in a panic. I feared he might have seen or heard me. I ran back to bed and pretended to be asleep, facing away from the window. Lightning crashed once again, but this time there was no metallic thud. My heart
Hey, what's up, Andy? How you doing? What's up, Brandon?
must have dropped as I realized this. I just stayed put in bed for the longest time, hoping whoever was out there would go away.
Someone's trying to break
After
into the
maybe
freaking house.
3 more lightning crashes without any thuds accompanying them, I thought it would be safe to go tell my uncle. I turned to face the window and screamed.
Hey, Underground, thank you for the super chat, man.
There was a figure, clear as day, standing at the window, looking in at me.
Oh, gosh.
I screamed as loud as I could and ran straight to my uncle's room. He went outside with his hunting rifle with nothing on but his pajamas, not even socks.
His hunting
He ran
rifle?
around the entire property yelling like
gosh.
a madman, but didn't find anyone. The next morning, we were able to better see the marks on the basement door lock. It was almost bashed open. Maybe 3 or 4 more good hits would have done it, according to my uncle. He was proud of me for picking up on it. Luckily, I was out of there that same day. My uncle hasn't told us of any incidents since, so I think he's been okay. Not that we talked to him much at all. I'm grateful I stayed up a little later that night watching that movie, because I may have just stopped a robbery, or possibly much worse.
I told you guys, someone was trying to freaking break into the house. Someone was trying to break in.
I don't care if anyone judges me, but I like to go to the movie theaters alone. My work schedule is all over the place. I often don't work weeknights. So on a stormy Wednesday night, a night not many other people would be thinking to go drive to a movie theater.
This video is about an online anime cult which I almost signed up for back in high school when things were hard but didn't. Enjoy the scary vid.
All right.
I did just that. I always like avoiding crowds in anything I do. That's just how I am. It was 2017. I went to see some low-key movie that probably wasn't at the top of most people's must-see movie lists. I was the only one in the theater, just like I expected. I sat myself right in the center seat of one of the higher-up rows.
That'd be weird, the only one in the theater? I don't think I've ever gone to the movie theater where I was literally the only person in the whole theater. That'd be freaking weird.
Put my feet up on the seat in front of me. About 20 minutes into the movie, I'd say, I noticed someone a few aisles down. I didn't notice them coming in. The theater was dark because the scene in the movie at the time was in a dark room. They weren't sitting in a seat like a normal person though. All I saw of them was the top half of their head, peering over one of the seats to be looking in a direction that definitely was not the screen.
What?
It was still too dark to be able to tell if they were looking directly at me or not.
Yeah, that is
when
awkward.
the scene changed to a brighter background, the whole theater got brighter. Bright enough to see they were looking basically at me. But their face was so pale and lifeless looking, and their
Is
hair
it a
messy
ghost?
and wiry looking. I couldn't even tell if it was a man or a woman.
Is it a freaking
I'm an
ghost?
introvert, or just an awkward person, so I didn't really want to ask if there was something wrong. I viewed that as confrontation. The screen went darker again, and at the same time, the person lowered down behind the chair completely until I couldn't see them anymore. They were completely hidden from my view. I couldn't concentrate on the movie now, though. I was actually very uncomfortable. Actually quite terrified.
What's up, Bladefire?
I didn't get up, though. I stayed put in my seat. Many scenes in the movie passed. I almost forgot about what happened. Almost.
Don't tell me they turn around and that creepy person is like in a different seat, or like they got closer to them. That, or like maybe they like disappeared. That'd be weird too.
Just when I was getting back into the movie, the person's head appeared from behind a seat again. This time much closer.
I told
like
you.
3 rows of seats away from me.
They got freaking
I actually let out
closer.
a holy shit
Hell
and a loud yell
no.
because it genuinely made me jump. Now I was able to see more detail or features in their face.
What's up, Randy? How you
They
doing?
actually looked lifeless. Their eyes motionless, hung open. But still, I somehow couldn't tell if they were looking
It's a freaking ghost. Oh, hell no.
directly at me or not. Now I could better see it was a man with long, unkempt hair. I noped the F out of my seat and down the road to the exit. I had to pass the row in which the person was in to get to the exit door. As I passed the row, I looked down it, and while I expected to see the rest of the person's body sitting hunched behind the seats, instead what I saw was something you'd see in a nightmare.
Oh
There was a guy
no.
basically laying on the floor, holding up a severed head perched on a stick. I didn't stick around to see if it was some sick joke or if the head was real or not. I ran for it through the exit door, and I ran out of the back exit of the building.
That's
to the parking
freaking
lot.
weird.
I drove home in a panic, heart
Disturbing.
racing. That head looks so real. I got home and did some research about possible recent murders or missing people in the area, and I found something. After browsing a list of missing people in the area, I found the picture of a 17-year-old boy named Donald Watkins who had gone missing a month prior, and based on the picture I found, his face could have matched the head I saw in that theater.
What?
Of course, that could be my brain trying to connect any similarities.
Oh, that's
But
freaky.
The hair, the nose, the eyes, they looked like they could actually be a match. The
was
next day,
it
I
a
simply
real
made a call to
head?
the theater and told them the story and
Oh,
suggested
that's-
they check their cameras and see if anything strange came up. I gave them my number to reach me if they needed to, but I never heard from them. I chose to not spend any more of my time on it.
That's freaking disturbing, guys. Oh my gosh.
A long time ago, I very briefly lived with my good friend Ben on a quiet street in Northville, Michigan, perhaps notable for being close to Detroit. It wasn't the nicest house, or block, or area for that matter, but the price was unbeatable for two broke young men like ourselves.
What's up, Momo?
Ben and I went way back to when we were like 9 years old, and at the time of this story, we worked the same job, and rooming together with him seemed like a great idea. On our first day there, we quickly figured out that the creepy-looking house across the street with the overgrown grass and bushes was abandoned, as were a lot of the houses around the area. In fact, something we somehow hadn't noticed before, there was even graffiti next to one of the front windows and on the fence. Our neighbors on one side seemed like creeps, and we didn't even want to approach them. The neighbor on the other side was an older dude, a very interesting.
That'd be weird, moving into a neighborhood where there's a bunch of abandoned houses. I don't know if I would feel very comfortable with that. Hey, Nadine, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate it.
Hippie-ish kind of guy. His name was Marv. He had long gray hair with a matching long gray beard. He seemed friendly at first, I guess, but also very weird and hard to talk to.
Yeah.
We spoke with him on our second day there after work. He told us the place had been abandoned for as long as he could remember. That night,
Whoa.
with the sun almost set, while we were sitting on the front stoop smoking, I looked to the house across the street and felt a little tingle in my stomach out of shock. I stood up threw my cigarette onto the floor and crushed it. Ben looked at me confused, and I pointed to the window across the street.
Is there someone in the frickin' window?
Which I saw, staring at me through the lone upstairs window of the house. Do you see that? There's someone at that window. Ben looks at the window.
What would you guys do if you looked at it in the, like over at an abandoned house and there was a frickin' face in the window? I'd frickin' move. I'd move somewhere else. I'm sorry.
Window immediately, but I saw the person move their head away before he could see it. It's weird. I explained to Ben that I didn't even know if it was a male or female, old or young. The glass was just too foggy.
I'd move.
All I knew was that I saw the eyes, and they were staring at us. Ben told me I was legitimately creeping him out. He believed me. We ran over to Marv's house to tell him, but strangely he didn't answer his door, even though we saw him watching TV in his tiny, messy living room through the window. The fact that the guy wouldn't answer creeped us out even more.
I'd move 1,000 miles away.
This place? Ben laughed, but the situation couldn't stay comical for long. Ben owned a katana. He brought it to mention and suggested we go across the street with it, break into the house from the backyard, and see what was going on. We were always adventurous, daring troublemakers as kids, so this was our natural response to the situation. When it got dark, we went across the street to the backyard, broke off the board holding the back door shut, and entered the house. We both had heavy-duty flashlights with us to light up basically any room we were in. The house was dusty, decrepit, but surprisingly seemed to remain untouched from the inside. No graffiti or signs of vandalism anywhere.
Them going over to the house where they saw a frickin' face in the window? Yo, you gotta be frickin' brave to do that. You gotta be frickin' brave. I would not. I'd lock my door and hell no, I'm not going over into that frickin' abandoned house. Hell no.
Still, the place was disturbingly creepy, and we immediately joked that we should get the fuck out of there. But we pressed on. The first floor was pathetically small like our own. A kitchen, a tiny living room, and a dining room.
Right, Chip?
There was no basement and one closet.
Curiosity killed the cat, right?
We both agreed to check the upstairs. We tiptoed over to the stairs,
right, Astro?
And Ben, out of nowhere, screamed, "Is anybody up there?" "Dude, why the fuck would you do that?" I said quietly. Then we both froze in fear when we heard rapid stomping suddenly appear from above us. It was someone heavy, and it sounded like they were running over to the stairway.
Bro, get out of there.
I literally felt like my heart stopped.
Get out of there.
The one with the katana was the first to flee, grabbing my arm and tugging me with him. We went out the way we entered and ran back to the house, where we saw Marv just standing by his window, watching us. We didn't know what to do. He just intently stared at us as we
It's like Marv, the guy who lived across the street. He was just watching them. It's like he knew. Like that guy Marv that lived there, he knew like some crazy person lived in that house or something, and he didn't tell them. Marv had to know.
Froze to catch our breath in front of the house. We went inside, decided not to call the police.
Hey guys, we got 46 people watching, 23 likes. Make sure and hit the like button, guys. Let's try to get up to 40 likes on the stream. Yes.
Police, and moved out literally the next day. We explained to the landlord.
Wait, they moved? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's what I would have done. Is that what they said?
We went inside, decided not to call the police, and moved out literally the next day.
Yep, that's what he said.
We
They moved.
explained to the landlord that the location was just too inconvenient for us, and we needed to leave ASAP. We drove away from that house and never looked back.
Wow. Story number 6.
For my son's 12th birthday, my wife and I threw him a little party in the backyard. We invited the whole family, as we usually did for any of our kids' birthdays, and let him invite all of his friends too. We live in rural New
Nice,
Jersey,
Matthew.
so our backyard connects to forest on 2 sides. We also have a pretty big property, which allowed us to space out a bunch of tables on the grass with food and refreshments. The little party went into the night. Most of our guests left, but closer family and some of our friends stayed late. It was probably 8 o'clock. The mosquitoes were out in full force, so I decided to run over to the shed at the far end of the backyard by the woods to fetch the tiki
Right,
torches.
Chip? I wouldn't
I grabbed
investigate
like 6
either.
torches and set them on the grass while I went back in to look for fuel. However, while I was in the shed, I heard steps in the woods. I stopped
Uh-oh.
what I was doing to take a look out there, but honestly,
Steps in
it
the
was just too dark
woods.
to see out into the woods.
Nature
After
is
finding the
beautiful.
fuel, I went back to the part of the yard everyone else was at and pitched the torches into the ground. The 6 torches gave off a decent amount of light while keeping us safe from the blood-sucking pests. There
Frickin'
were about 6 kids
mosquitoes.
left, including my son,
I hate mosquitoes, guys. Can I get an amen?
and they all wanted to play hide-and-seek in the woods. My wife and I allowed it, just making sure to tell them to stay close to the tree line. My son and his friends went to play their little game in the woods, which left the rest of us to sit in peace for a little bit. It was a solid 15 minutes of talking with relatives and hearing the kids laughing and yelling in the near distance out in the woods. But all of a sudden, the yelling turned to screams, concerning sounding screams from the kids. All of us looked at each other, sitting up in concern. The kids one by one came running out of the woods, yelling that there's something in there. We
What-
don't have bears
what the
or
hell's
any
in
big
the
predatory
woods?
animals around here, so that was not the first thing we assumed it to be. I told all the kids to stay near the patio area. My brother Dom and I, being the biggest men there, decided to go investigate. We took a couple flashlights and off we went into the pitch black woods.
Okay, gamer.
The only sounds we heard around us were crickets and other night bugs. So we went deeper, and that's when we started to hear something else. It sounded like an animal at first, but as we followed the sound to get closer, the sound started to become more human-like.
Oh no.
We continued to walk.
Oh
We agreed
no.
We both had the feeling that we were being watched, like stalked. I put my arm out to stop Dom. Standing in the silence now, the best way I could describe the sound we were hearing was a moaning, angry kind of sound.
It's a
It sounded
frickin'
human, but
demon.
It was a bizarre sound.
It's okay, Laney.
A few cracks of the leaves on the ground ahead of us. We aimed our lights over there, and there was someone or something behind the tree.
I don't think
The
it's a
moaning sound
human.
stopped. Dom stepped
If it's
forward
making a
and called out.
noise like that, I don't think it's a
What
frickin'
happened
human.
next was textbook horror movie stuff. A scream, so loud, so blood-curdling. so
Hell no, get
inhuman,
out of there.
filled the air.
Get out of there and
Sure, it could be
run.
heard for miles. Dom and I turned and booked it back to the property. We
Frickin'
waved at
run.
everyone to go inside when we made it back. Dom got on the phone with the sheriff's department. They said it was probably a wild animal.
What's up,
We wanted to
Jonathan?
insist it was a human, but we honestly couldn't. We to this day don't know who or what we saw and heard in those woods, but it was definitely stalking us and the kids when they were playing hide and seek.
Yeah, Barry, at the top of the live chat, if you want to request that video, it's $1 per minute. You can use Streamlabs. If you can use Streamlabs, I prefer that, or Super Chat. You can request that if you want.
And that scream we heard, it just didn't sound human to us.
Oh, heck no.
We heard for miles.
That little end thing there was kind of a jump scare. Did that end face kind of scare you guys a little bit? That was a little bit of a jump scare. Hey, Clarissa. All right, guys, that was 6 of my favorite scary true stories through the years by Mr. Nightmare. Let's go.